Well, guys, we got Larry Ballard, but before we start here today, he's got an incredible presentation lined up for you. So don't touch that dial. Don't go anywhere because you're going to be blown off your chairs. But before we get going, the movie, Dear Mr. President, Show Me the Money, a movie about the straw man, a movie that's been dumbed down for the masses, deliberately intentional, by design, engineered so that everybody can understand it, is coming out May 7th at 7:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's go ahead and play that movie real quick. This way you guys can understand the power of what's getting ready to be released. We need everybody to buy the movie for $5.89 because we need the money because we're launching the biggest movie ever. Donald Trump meeting with the generals, Donald Trump coming down the escalator, Donald Trump coming down the escalator with a sign that says money exchange. We're going to tie in the XRP and the new financial system all into the Q movement. It's going to be a 17-part series, most likely, or maybe a 10-hour documentary. I don't know. The only thing I do know, we need a ton of money to bring in all the right people to make sure that we tell you the most prolific, the most accurate story that we could possibly put on film once. This way, our generations to come will know what happened in 2020 all the way leading up to 2026. So here we go. Stop! Don't you dare scroll! What if I told you you're already worth hundreds of millions of dollars and they're hiding it from you for your entire life? Not a theory, not a guess, actual proof. Everything you think you know about money is a lie. Everything you were taught in school was designed to keep you blind, stupid, and programmed.
Every time you signed your name, every contract, every form, every loan, you weren't just agreeing, you were funding a system that's been profiting off you. They created a twin of you, a legal version, an all caps identity. That's traded like a financial instrument, a bond, generating interest on top of interest on your life. Your energy, your work, your existence turned into profit, but not for you. Your government knows. Big Pharma knows. The hospitals know.
The system is broken. It's working exactly how it was designed, just not in your favor. Garish?
This film was made at a 3rd and 4th grade level. Not because you're dumb, but because we've all been dumbed down, stripped of truth, buried under complexity. That ends now. Dear Mr. President, Show Me the Money. A film that exposes in precise, undeniable detail what they prayed you'd never question.
If it pisses you off, good. It means you're waking up.
If it makes you uncomfortable, that's the truth knocking. This movie was intended to hit you hard. If you feel like you have to tell everyone you know, then it did exactly what it was engineered to do.
Because if enough people see it, understand it, and move on it, there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of explaining to do, and heads will roll.
The question isn't whether this is real. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Sit back or stand up? Will you claim what's yours? Will you demand answers? Will you finally stop playing small in a game built on your value? Now it's your move, because in the end, humanity wins, and ultimately, God wins. Well, it's an incredible movie. It's coming out, and there's no question.
I took advice from too many people.
And let me go ahead and stop sharing. And we're back. Larry, let me go ahead and share your screen, which is really important. And this basically is Trump's peace plan and the importance of him being in this war for all of us with Iran. I think you'll understand the importance of it once Larry explains it to you in a way that probably no one else knows how to. And I think you'll line up exactly with his line of thinking. I know I do. Larry, welcome to the Mel Carmine Show. You're always an honored guest. And why don't we get started with slide number 1 here. We're going to share the screen. Tell me if you could see the screen. And here we go. Can you see the screen, sir?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful.
All right. So here's what I wanted to do. I'm going to just open this up as plainly as I can. I'm an absolutely unapologetic supporter of Donald Trump. And I'm able to look at what he does from a vantage point that few people can, because I got history, I got the Bible, I've got 57 years of study, I've read Sun Tzu, I think I understand how the man works, and he tells you he's going to do something, and by golly, he does it. So what you see here this could basically be called the the foundation for the midterm elections. He's basically said national security is job number one. Removing Iran's nuclear capability certainly falls within that, right? Honest elections. We're going to find out that you can't have a sovereign government if you don't have honest elections. You can't have a sovereign government if you don't have sovereign borders. You can't have a sovereign government if you don't have sovereign currency. You can't have a sovereign government if you don't have free speech. You can't have a sovereign government, financially stable government, if you don't have control of manufacturing and trade. And you certainly can't have a sovereign government if you don't have shared values. And look at what's happening in Europe and look at what's happening in here. They're bringing these people in. They refuse to assimilate, and they're basically trying to cram Sharia law down our throats. So what we're going to do is go through these 8 points, and I'm just going to basically show you like one slide that represents what Trump is doing on each of these categories. And then we're going to talk about the Iran war and why it's essential and the genius of what this man has done. Most people pick up the trail in the wrong place. You've got to go back at least as far as when he went in and took Maduro out in Venezuela in order to understand what's going on. So basically, we're going to do that. And then I'm going to shift gears to what's completely different subject. And I'm going to tell you why everything that he is doing is going to keep the promise that he said. He's going to make America great? No. He's going to make America greater than ever. He's going to make America more financially rich and stable than it ever was. And we're going to come out of this basically in the financial situation where America can once again lead the world into financial prosperity. A healed, financially sound America is the only nation in the world capable of bringing the world out of the chaos that we're in and restoring and bringing the peace and prosperity that we talk about. And then the very last thing I want to do is people, generally speaking, because of the news and what they do to us, they look at a single element of things. You cannot understand the dynamics of something as complicated as this unless you can look at it from a geopolitical vantage point. And there are 5 different places we need to look in the world to understand what's going on and to get a thorough understanding of what this war is all about. So let's go on down, and like Mel promoted his movie, I need to promote my book for a second. So let's go on down and I'll do just that. Basically, the book is out now. It's been out for a few weeks. The launch was unfortunately interrupted by me getting sick for almost 2 months, so I haven't hardly done any shows, but it's called Liberty Crusade, Restoring the Republic. It's been 50 years in the birthing because God told me, I'm going to have you travel, I'm going to have you have jobs that are strategic and significant, I'm going to have you read, but you're not coming out until the very last second. I'm going to keep you in the cleft of the rock. Why? Because if I bring you out premature, people won't listen. And now is the time, the moment in time when people are ready to listen. So I'm going to pose 2 questions to you. If you, like Mel's movie is designed to get you to stand up and take action, right? So is this book. It tells you how we restore the republic. So here's 2 questions for you. Do you know what a republic is? Do you know what the responsibilities of you as a citizen of the United States are in terms of that republic? If you don't, you darn near need to buy this book. Do you know what the American economic system was and how it made America the wealthiest nation in the world on its 100th year centennial, when it was declared that America, the youngest nation in the world, was now the wealthiest nation? And it was further declared that on that date that America now was #1 in the world in manufacturing, in agriculture, and in mining. And England had about a 300-year head start on us. And that's what the American economic system did. That's what Trump is reinventing. So one of the things I need you to understand, which you'll understand if you get this book, Trump is not experimenting. Everything Trump is doing has a foreshadow from the Bible. It has a foreshadow from history. It worked. He's using tariffs. That's what made us great in the first place. That's what made us wealthy. We imposed a 50% tariff on England, and then we forced the building of a transcontinental railroad so we could get our natural resources. And then we innovated the Industrial Revolution, and the whole world was prospering. And still in World War I, the British said, oh my God, if we don't stop those railroads from being built, we'll lose control of trade by the sea. And that, folks, cost 15 million lives in order to crush that transcontinental railroad system that was going across Russia over to the Bering Straits, from there down north, from north to south into America, then on down into South America and across Gibraltar to Africa. And that would have been the end of England. England today, I need you to understand, and I think finally, as a result of this war and the actions that England took, we now understand we've been sleeping with the enemy. England is our number one adversary, not China. China is a puppet of England. So with that, I've tried to tell you why you need to buy this book, because if you don't understand in detail the things I just told you, you're useless. You cannot in any way, shape, or form help restore this republic. You're just a victim, a mute that stands there and can do nothing. But the truth will set you free. If you have the truth that's in this book, it'll tell you what made America great in absolute detail, how we systematically had it taken away from us, how we get it back, and how we keep it. That's everything you need to know to be a citizen of the republic and to help save this nation and help save the world. So with that, let's get into this presentation. You ready? Next slide.
Yep.
Trump said it. He said job number one is national security. That's why he's doing what he's doing in Canada with the fentanyl. That's why he's doing what he's doing in Mexico. That's why he's doing what he's doing in the entire Western hemisphere. You need to understand that, and you will understand it as we go further into these slides. So let's go on down to the next one. And I put a collage together that I think will show you just exactly what he's talking about. These are our enemies, the people who steal our votes, the people who are politicians who are not elected. They're selected, financed, groomed, and put into office, whether it's by legal means or just by stealing an election. And it was Lincoln who said long ago, around the time of the Civil War, I fear for our great nation, because I see the time when the banks and the corporations will merge power and take control away from the people and basically turn them into slaves. All of that has happened since the founding of this nation. And then we've got an incursion because they want to come across our borders and basically divide us. And we think that Canada is our friend. Nope, folks, you need to know history. Canada is still under the crown, and the crown is our number one enemy. And then you think, well, Mexico's our friend. No, Mexico's not our friend. Mexico enabled all those cartels to come across their border, and Mexico was founded by Spain. That's part of the beast system. Then we get to the most important one of all, Venezuela. That's where this war starts, because Trump had to go in and take Maduro in order to be able to frame what was going to happen. So he knew emphatically that he had the winning hand in this war. And then we go down and we're finding out now, as a result of this war, England really is our mortal enemy. Here's what England did in this war. They said, this is not our war. They said, the Lloyd's of London, they basically insure every ship on the ocean. They said, we're not going to insure those ships. They don't move if they don't have insurance. And so basically Trump said, I don't care. I'll indemnify them. I'll insure those. And then he said, all right, England, come on over here and send us a couple of ships to fight this war. This is not our war. And finally, when he had everything calmed down and didn't need them, they said, okay, we'll send you a couple of old outdated aircraft carriers. And Trump said, too late. We don't need you. We can do it without you. They exposed themselves. And then we got Russia and China and Iran, our three mortal enemies. But what we need to understand, they're all puppeted by England. And what's that picture I see of Russia? I know my Bible. It says that Russia came out at the wrong time. They're the sleeping bear. They're going to go back to sleep. This war with Russia and Ukraine is going to end. Why is it going to end? Go back to England. Go back to Europe. Because it only existed because the EU was funding Ukraine to fight that war. Now they're in deep financial trouble and they're not able to fund the war. So it's going to end. And then we go to China. And China truly is our only real adversary in terms of individual nations, because they have prowess. They have a navy, they have an army, and they have manufacturing. But guess what? They're falling apart. And then the most dangerous one of all, and why we had to fight this war, Islam. And that sign you see is absolutely the truth. Islam believes that they are meant to dominate the world. And I know what I'm talking about because I'm probably one of the few people in the United States of America that read the Quran from cover to cover. And I know that they are not a religion of peace. They're a religion of domination and a religion of death. And then where does it all start? with war. The wars drive nations into debt, cause them to take up a central bank, and that is the slavery system that results in everything you see on this collage. Mel, I can talk forever. Why don't I shut up and see if you've got some comments to make before we go on?
Well, not really much, except I think it's, I think the Muslims are going to be in for a dissolution. They're not going to take over the world, because there are people like
Say
me.
that. I can't hardly hear you.
I said can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. What I'm saying is basically the Islamic people are going to be in for a rude awakening, because they're not going to take over the world, because there are a lot of people like me that are going to stand up and say, no, you're not going to do that. And we mean business. And they know that they're going to get into a fight that they can't win, number one. And number two, it's very important at this point to really safeguard and have food, because we might have still a few bumps in the road, and be prepared with some gold and silver. By the way, I sell gold and silver, nothing less than 50,000. But if we're not too busy, we'll go down as low as 40, 30,000 only if we're not too busy. Silver and gold, carminesgold.com. There's a telephone number there, 786-704-8817. We can also get you a tremendous amount of XRP. Other than that, let's go on to the next slide.
All right.
If you're ready.
So basically, if you go to the next slide, I'll break it down for you. This is beginning. As I said, I need to defend this man over and over again. Look at this. I highlighted Greenland and Panama. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because we talked as I open this up, trade is the basis for all wealth. They say he who controls money controls the world. Well, that's kind of true, but where does it all start? It starts with natural resources that are turned into finished products that are then traded around the world, that are then sold and turns into money. And so we were in jeopardy of losing the Northwest Passage through Greenland and in losing Panama. And that would have basically put America in a very bad financial situation. And then we have Russia and China mingling in our hemisphere in South America. And we have had Russia controlling Cuba for decades. And we have Venezuela, which really, really is the heart of the cartels and the resistance that's in South America. Venezuela served three functions. It was a staging ground for the caravans to come into this country. It is a hotbed of training for the cartels, and most importantly, it was the place that the election from the United States of America, our election of the U.S. election and 71 other nations was orchestrated and controlled. So we need to understand Trump had to take Venezuela out because God told me in 68, the truth will set you free and it will open your eyes. And what we need to open our eyes is undisputed information about the theft of the elections that have cost not only Trump a term, but basically have controlled our government for almost 100 years. So let's go on down and we're going to break it down further. We're now going to look at what I meant when I said, I know what Islam was all about. Go to the next slide, if you would. This is the true story. We fought Islam for 1,400 years. Occasionally we would be in control and they would be in control. It seesawed back and forth. Whenever they were in control, they basically dominated those nations. They forced them to wear a necklace that said, we paid a tax because we are subservient to you and we've bent a knee to you. Or they wore a yellow star, and that yellow star became infamous during World War II when Hitler made the Jews wear it. So now I'm going to read you two things. I'm going to read you right out of the Quran. Shura 9.5. It says, but when the sacred months are past, that just happened, kill the infidels. That's you and me. That's all non-Muslims, wherever you may find them, and kill them and besiege them and lie in wait for them in every place of observation. Does that sound like peace? Or does that sound like an unbelievably hostile nation? Now let's codify that with some facts. Here it is. Since the beginning of Islam's conquest, they have killed, are you ready? 51 million Christians, 80 million Hindus, 10 million Buddhists, and 120 to 125 million Africans through their slave trade. And they were more than willing to basically cause World War III, a nuclear holocaust. And if you know your Bible, like I know your Bible, you know that it is Islam that is the pale horse that brings destruction to the world right there. It's right in your Bible, folks. There's no wondering, no guessing. It's right there for everybody to see. Let's go on down to the next slide, but let me stop again. Mel, do you have something else you want to say before we go on?
No, I agree, but I also agree that based on this slide that's coming here right now, and what you mentioned earlier regarding the election, the election integrity, let's call it that for a lack of a better term, because we're not allowed to use the words we really want to use here. There's a lot of mainstream media right now saying the arrests are coming, and Donald Trump is torturing and tormenting his enemy. It's fun to watch. I got to tell you, they say he who laughs last laughs best, and we are getting ready to laugh some really, really good shit.
Yep, there's all kinds of stuff coming out.
Yeah.
There's stuff that started with Doge, stuff coming out on money laundering. There's the Sean Taylor story on money laundering. There's
Hmm.
Patrick Byrd talking about election fraud. All of this is coming out. That's the
Correct.
truth. That's the truth that's going to open people's eyes. And they're talking about eventually Brennan is going to be arrested. And then following that, they're even talking about arresting Barack Obama.
Correct.
And when that happens, I mean, the pace is going to get very fast because the disclosure is going to come out like a tsunami. And when that happens, it's going to shock people. That's why we need to do shows like this now so that people can get ready for what's coming. Let's go on down and we get into something that's crucial. This is what's going to open people's eyes. Honest elections, voter fraud. So basically, we're going to find out that that's an act of treason, and that people that within our own government, we're orchestrating it with Venezuela's help, with China's help, with Russia's help. They're traitors, and we're going to see lots of them go to jail, and we're going to see lots of them visit Guantanamo Bay and never come back. So basically, I'm telling you, folks, it's all coming. The shadow government legal dictatorship is going to be exposed, and Donald Trump is the one who set the platform to do it. And it all started as well as the precursor to winning this war in Iran right there in Venezuela. Let's go on down. And I want to show you how they have used, one more slide, how they've used illegal immigration in order to enslave both the nations of America and Europe. So what happens is they had an orchestrated war. It was called the Arab Spring, and they basically tore all the Middle East apart, and they sent millions of refugees, Muslim refugees, into Europe who refused to assimilate, who demand Sharia law, who came there impoverished and now are wealthy, and there's tons of multi-million-dollar mosques that have been built. And ask yourself a question: where did these poor refugees get that money? It came from Saudi Arabia. It came from Turkey. And why did it come? It came because those mosques were fronts for basically radicalizing people and creating zealots who were willing to kill in order to see just what this slide says. Islam will dominate the world. And then in America, what have they done? When we first formed our nation, there were all the people coming from Europe and fought for years. They hated each other. There was all kinds of hatred, from religion to and every issue you can imagine. But they came to America poor, seeking freedom. And guess what? They stood together and they assimilated into the American Republic, the first republic ever in the history of the world. And a republic that, for those of you who don't know, is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. They didn't want a king. They didn't want a president. They wanted the government to be run by the people. That's why they gave us the voice we have. That's why they gave us the three branches of government. And it's been usurped. It's been taken over. And when we get all of this taken care of, the one biggest thing we need to do is we need to have a constitutional referendum, and we need to basically take control away from the career politicians by passing term limits so they can never, ever again come in and garner that kind of power. But you see that picture over to the right? Those are people coming up through Mexico. And does that look like people who are here to assimilate into the American culture? Or does that look like an army of invasion? And look at the picture in the middle. That's over in Europe, but you can find a picture similar to it right here in the United States, right in Times Square, where they go out there and they block the roads and they said, stop us if you can. And they demand Sharia law, and they're demanding every kind of right you can imagine. And they're being radicalized right and left in those mosques. So now we're going down step by step, whether you followed it or not, through those 8 bullet points. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to find that the next thing that you have to have sovereignty is you cannot have a fiat financial system because it's basically worthless. It's like that clip up here says, paper money eventually returns to its, let me set up so I can see this, to its intrinsic value. This is by Voltaire. And what is that intrinsic value? 0. So this is what Trump is giving us. He's getting out from under the fiat system. He's putting us on a commodity-based system, which is God's economic system. And he's going to initiate quantum financial system, XRP, blockchain, all the things that you need in order to make the financial system basically be able to serve the people. And with that system, that has all the safeguards you can imagine. You can't create inflation or deflation or wage suppression or stock market manipulation or boom bust cycles or national and consumer debt or poverty and division or global conflicts. Bam. That is the essence of peace. That is what Trump is bringing to the world. He's already negotiated 8 peace agreements. And because of the actions that he's taken, I think the Russia and Ukraine war is going to end because Europe has no more money to fund it. And basically the whole world is going to change. And we're talking about deglobalization and de-dollarization, but the outcome is not going to be what most of you think. So stay to the end and you'll find out what I'm talking about. Mel, you've been awfully quiet. You got any other comments?
Nope, you're right on target. The only thing I'll say is that there are a lot of people that are hopeful. I don't really do dates, and I've never done dates. I follow people that do dates, and really, it makes you feel good that something's about to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then you're disillusioned. But they're using now the date of July 3rd at midnight. The switch is going to go on, and look,
You
at
need to
some
get
point
your
it will.
microphone closer to your mouth.
At some point it will. Yeah, you're right. At some point it will, right? At some point it absolutely will happen. But to put a date on it, July 3rd, I don't know. I mean, what
Let
do
me
you
give you
feel?
some encouraging information.
Yeah,
I've done shows on everything you can imagine that relates to the financial system. And if I look at the dinar and the dong revaluing, I've done shows and I said both of those nations are financially solvent. They've rebuilt their infrastructure. They have gleaming new factories. Iraq is shipping out oil as refined oil. They have gold. They have all kinds of resources. Vietnam has one of the youngest workforces in the world, and their labor costs are cheaper even than that of England. And they have a booming domestic and international marketplace because both are benefiting from what? From trade leaving China, manufacturing leaving China and going to the Middle East. So basically, they're both solvent. So why haven't they revalued?
sure.
Well, it relates to this war. It relates to what's happening. They just had an election in Iraq. And
I
what
just
does that
readjusted
mean?
my microphone. Can you hear me better now?
A little bit better. So what happened? They had an election. They've elected a president. They're going to have a prime minister and a cabinet. And what does that mean? That means that very probably this reset is at the door. Why? Because it couldn't happen before. Even though the nations were economically stable, America was running Iraq rather. Well, they're out. The currency was
Right.
what? The dollar. That's out. They're now transacting in their own country in their own currency. And most importantly, because they now have their own government, and once this war is over, the foot on their neck from Iran is going to be removed. And so basically the outside influences that have kept this reset from happening are being removed. They're an autonomous sovereign nation at that point. And here's what's going to happen. A sovereign nation can pass a budget. A sovereign nation can build infrastructure. And a sovereign nation, are you ready for it? Can do what? Can set the exchange rate for their currencies.
Okay.
So it now looks like to me that everything that needs to be done to revalue the currency for the dinar is there, and also there's implications for Vietnam, because basically once all of this ends, this influence from Iran also extends over to that part of the world. So if you have financial peace breaking out all over the world, and here's what's happening. This is the other part of it. Iran was stupid. Iran bombed, or sent missiles, I should say, over to most of the Muslim nations in that region and threatened to blow up their oil and all their shipping and everything else. And so they thought, well, that'll make these people push Trump to end this war. Nope, did the exact opposite. It made them say, we won't live under this fear any longer. Trump, go for it. Go for the jugular. End this war. End this threat. Totally. So the whole of the Middle East wants peace. And the only way they're going to get it is if Donald Trump does like the exact opposite of what all of our other presidents have done. He's taken decisive action. He doesn't ever let anybody cross a red line without consequences. And the man is not going to go in and negotiate any agreement. I don't care what anybody says, that doesn't completely remove the threat of a nuclear weapon, that doesn't neuter Iran. So now maybe this is a good time to talk about the rest of Iran. So what's happening in Iran, and what does that have to do with Venezuela? Because Venezuela created the opportunity for us to have an oil squeeze. And so initially, as we went into this, he basically said Europe and Russia, not Russia, Europe and India don't buy oil from Russia. But now what happened? He doesn't want Russia being put in a situation where they're squeezed too hard, or for that matter, India, for that matter, Europe. So he said, Putin, as long as you don't try to sell oil from Iran, you can sell Europe and India any amount of oil you want. So they didn't have to come into the war because they weren't threatened to the point that it was essentially necessary. And why didn't China come in? Because Trump called up his buddy Xi and said, hey, you can't get your oil through the Straits of Hormuz. Listen, they only ship 20%. There are alternate routes. Use those alternate routes. I won't stop you. I won't block it. So Japan, who has virtually no oil, got their oil. China got their oil. And so guess what? All those nations butted out and stayed out. And the Middle East Arab nations sided with us. And now what's happening? This is what they call a siege, just like we used to have in old times. This is a blockade. A blockade is a siege. And what's happening, the dynamics of the war, they've been pummeled, and their defense mechanisms have been basically obliterated. The Air Force and the Navy are gone, and then their satellite systems are gone, and their radar is gone. And so now here's what's happening. This is how you end a war, folks, and it's coming soon. I don't care what anybody says. They're losing, what was it, $500 million a day? I think that's the number. Maybe it's 50 million. I just forgot. But anyway, almost all of their revenue is in
500
oil,
million.
They can't ship 500 million.
It is 500
They
million.
can't ship any oil out. And so basically it means their entire economy is dead. The nation that is full of oil can't even provide gas to their own gas stations because Cog Island is being boycotted, right? And being part of that closure of the straits.
Correct.
And the grocery stores don't have food. So they're doing to them the same thing they did to Cuba. And now what's happening is the IRCG, guess what? They're not getting paid. Now, the really, really radicals at the top, the ones that are just absolutely crazy, they're not going to give up. But we're seeing deserters by the droves, because if you're not getting paid, maybe you're not willing to die for that regime. And so basically this creates the perfect opportunity for Iran to have somewhat of a civil war, because we've got the president trying to just basically tell the people, look, this is bad. We've got to end this. And we've got to end it on America's terms, because this is not a negotiation. This is a surrender. But now I need you to think about something. This is where this gets very dangerous and very serious. If you understand the IRCG, they exist for a singular reason. They exist because of the turmoil. They exist because they're the military deterrent against their mortal enemies, the United States and Israel, right? Well, if this war ends, that deterrent is no longer needed. But what we need to understand is they're not only a military force, they control almost all of the economic system of Iran. So you've got the people, the mass of people, you've got deserters in the army that want to end this war. You've got the president of the nation that's speaking on their behalf. And then you've got the RSCG with their back against the wall. Now, I don't know what power they have, but I know the last thing they want to do is reach a peace agreement, because it nullifies their very existence. So look at the genius of what Trump has done. And then if you look at what Iran is proposing, they want to keep their nuclear power, and they want to be able to have control over the straits. And what are the Middle East nations saying? We don't want them to have control. What's the rest of the world saying? We don't want them to have control. I'm telling you, this war is going to end. And I'm telling you, it was more complex than you thought. Look at all the puzzle pieces that I've moved around the table here. This is a man who's a military genius, who's a strategist that follows Sun Tzu. There's not probably another man in the world that could have orchestrated this, and certainly not another army that could have pulled it
100
off.
trillion%. 100. The only thing I will tell you is, in regards to the revaluation, you know how silver went up to like $122 an ounce, and all of a sudden they pulled it back. They figured out a way to manipulate it. In order for the dinars and the XRPs and everything to go, silver has to break the $300 mark this year. That will be the commencement, I think, of things to come. Without the silver and gold moving, and they have infinity. Look, we can get to another discussion at some later date. That's another podcast altogether. But there's an infinity of gold inside the Grand Canyon. An infinity. Okay? But anyway, let's get to the next slide.
Before you do, let me comment to
Sure.
what you said. Now, I can be wrong.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people who thinks that the financial reset kind of all happens at once. Well, I consider myself an historian and a pretty good strategic analyst. And I look at it as like a 6-lane highway. And I say the only one set to really, truly flip right now is the dinar and the dong. And then you're right, for silver to go, we have to have the implementation of the building of the factories to bring that $18 trillion in. So the demand for silver goes up. We have to therefore raise it based on demand, and silver goes to $300 or $500 or more. And then, everything else just starts to come in. XRP goes, and finally, eventually, the entire financial reset happens, and it's all on Trump's terms. But anyway, let's go on down. We're almost done. This is a pretty detailed presentation, and this is what you understand. That man right there, as well as almost every president in my lifetime, with the exception of Kennedy and Reagan and Trump, have been our mortal enemies. And when we had 9/11, I need to go back and tell you what this man did. He orchestrated it. If you go back and watch the shows that
Let's
I've
be
done
very
on
careful
9/11,
with our language. We want to stay under the radar with YouTube.
okay, you'll
right.
find out. You'll find out that basically, here, I'll just give you his words right here. He basically came in and saw to it that the Patriot Act was passed. But it wasn't the version that was written by Congress. It was a version written by the White House that was modeled after the Enabling Act from Germany that brought Adolf Hitler to power. And what it did was created a legal dictatorship. And here's what this man said: stop throwing the Constitution in my face. It's just a double-deleted piece of paper. So what he did, and what he was accused of doing by high-level people around the world, was he orchestrated a legal dictatorship in the form of the agreement that he saw was passed at 3:45 in the morning, when he pulled the Patriot Act off the desk, and the Congress signed it without ever reading it. Let's go on down. And the next thing that Trump is saying is, we go to the next slide. We became great when we developed the Industrial Revolution. And we're doing it again. And the Industrial Revolution it birthed what we called the American economic system. And what was said of it? It was the only system ever devised, the tendency of which was that of elevating while equalizing the condition of all mankind throughout the world. America innovated the Industrial Revolution and did something unique. It shared that technology with the world. And we're going to do it again, folks. It's going down. We're almost done. And here it is, Donald Trump. We were made America great by developing the Industrial Revolution, the assembly line, the automobile, the electric light bulb, etc. And now he's saying we have had it gutted from us when Carter came in and was puppeted, and basically China was allowed into the World Trade Organization and given preferential treatment. And now Trump is saying we're going to take that back. And America is now the number 2 producer of manufactured goods, far below China. But China is giving away that prowess, and America is taking that leadership role again. So when you go to the store, just think about this. If you buy something from China, you're helping our enemy. So Trump is going to build American. You buy American, and you'll help restore America. Let's go on down. And we're almost done. This is that last point on that list. And basically it says you cannot have a nation if you don't have sovereign borders. And if you have division within the nation, you're done. The Bible says the nation divided cannot stand. And so this is something people don't understand. They say, oh, America, you got to take all these people in. No, we don't. When we were founded, we took people in by the thousands and tens of thousands because we needed them to build the infrastructure to make this great nation. And what was it financed with? A simple sales tax. And what are we going to have when we come out of this? A simple sales tax. The Fed is going to be gone. Trump is already orchestrating the transfer. And when he gets his man in, we're going to have the interest rates lowered because we've got a substantial portion of our national debt coming up for refinancing, and he needs to get it financed at lower terms. But what's important on here is this. From 1924 to 1965, America declared there would be zero immigration, legal or otherwise. Why? Because we couldn't afford to assimilate all the poor people, and because we couldn't afford to assimilate the different cultures because there were simply too many people coming. Now you can take all of that, and it's in spades with what's happening today. Trump has closed the borders, but now we need to take the handcuffs off ICE, and we need to get these people out of this country because the group that came in contained, and this came out of Venezuela, basically Maduro said, well, Biden told us to send people. He told us to empty our prisons and our insane asylums and send the worst of the worst to America. And guess what? Islam was doing the same thing. So, folks, we need to get the enemy within out of this nation. Let's go on down. And this is something that's very important. I know it's a complex slide, so bear with me. Basically, what you see here is in the blue. That is the reset that we've always had. Basically, they established a strategic reserve. So in 29, gold was 35. They raised it 65% and confiscated it. And then what did they do? That then created inflation, and they pay off the debt with devalued currency. And then do they make any effort to try to change it so that we now have a new economic system? No, they just say reset. The debt trap is started over again, and there's no effort to fix anything. Well, enter Donald Trump, and it's a totally different story. Now he's queued us up for $18 trillion worth of new factories. He's got the Chevron deal through the Supreme Court. So remember, we developed the Industrial Revolution. Now he's giving us access to 5,915 amazing patents, so we can once again bring the world a technological revolution. And then he basically, I need to set up because that print's a little small for me. He's negotiated international deals for strategic natural resources with what? Oh, with Australia, with Canada, with Brazil. I mean, with Venezuela. So now we have all the natural resources we need in order to build those factories and to have an industrial revolution that's precipitated by the United States of America. And he's going to give us access to the patents, which are by and large free energy patents that are non-polluting. And people need to know that 50, 60, 70% of every product you've ever bought in your life, the cost was energy. And when we get the release of virtually free energy, everything you buy is going to cost a fraction of what it costs now. And it's going down. He's going to replace the Fed with the External Revenue Service. That's just what they did with the American economic system. And the U.S. will be the crypto capital of the world. Now, why is that important? It's important because there's probably close to 3 billion people on the planet that are unbanked. And what Trump is going to do is basically restore our economy so that people have faith in our economy once again. And then that 3 billion people will find we can trust America. But now we also find that they're the most convenient source for us to negotiate our economics. And so America is going to basically run the financial system. We're not going to be the one exclusive superpower of the world. It's no longer going to be a unipolar world. It's going to be a monopolar world. But at the top of that cake is the cherry on the top is America. And then, yes, Russia will be a regional power. They'll be a part of it. India will be a part of it. China will be a part of it. And maybe several other nations. But America is going to come out still controlling 50 or 60% of the trade in US dollars. And we're going to be the only nation in the world capable of restoring the chaos that we're in now, getting rid of it, and restoring peace and prosperity. The end of Western hegemony. Now, what is that all about? That is exactly what Trump is doing in this very next slide we're going to see. He is basically saying, hey, we have held you down, Mexico and Latin America and South America, and no more. We're going to do deals with you, and they're going to be fair, and they're going to be equitable. You're going to be able to build your infrastructure, and we're going to have economic parity between Canada, the United States, and all of South America. And that will bring a power block that I think very few people see. This last slide that we're going to go to is the most important one in this whole thing. And then the cartels, he's declared them terrorists, and he's going to take them out. And a financially restored America leads the second industrial revolution and brings order out of chaos. And the end of it, end wars, and usher in an unprecedented period of peace and prosperity. Now, over here, everything you see in gold is right off the debt clock. And I need you to see America's got some financial clout. Precious metals reservoir reserves 1.7 trillion. I forgot to put a T on there. Mineral reserves 1.3 trillion. Land 30.4 trillion. Stock market 64.1 trillion. Recaptured assets 9.1 trillion. What's that? Oh, folks, you know that Bitcoin that's part of that strategic reserve? That was all taken from the bad guys. And the total hidden wealth of the United States is $212 trillion. And that means that if you divide that number by the population of the United States, that each and every one of us has $620,000 worth of assets backing us within this economy. Only America has those kind of statistics. And we have more gold than any nation in the world. Don't worry about BRICS. Russia's leaving BRICS. India's leaving BRICS. We have the ability at any moment in time to step in and go in a gold-backed system. America is the most economically solvent nation in the world, thanks to Donald J. Trump. Or if it isn't now, it soon will be. Let's go down. We got one more slide, except to basically ask you to click on that QR code and buy my book. Here's the world today that you need to understand. Over to the far side, it says the United Americas. Trump is getting rid of the cartels. Trump is entering into agreements that basically help the nations. He's already gone into Argentina, who was about to have a bond collapse, and he bailed him out. It's looking like he's going to step in and do something similar to Brazil. And bottom line is we're going to enter into trade agreements with Mexico, South America, Latin America. We're in fact negotiating a new trade agreement right now as we speak with Canada and with Mexico, because the AMC, the American Mexico Canadian Treaty had a few problems, and Trump is forcing it to be redone to be so that it's truly equitable. But basically, we're going to treat all of these nations fairly, and they're going to allow them to develop their infrastructure, and they're going to be able to ship goods out as finished goods, not as raw goods. And look at what that does. Look at the power base that that gives America. Now let's dissect the rest of the world. And what you're going to find is while the rest of the world is deglobalizing, America is actually growing its sphere of influence. So you go to England and you go to Europe, and guess what's happening in Europe? They made a boo-boo years and years ago. They basically came in to take over Europe and cede the power in an unelected power in Brussels, and they came in as a trade agreement and a common currency, and then they tried, operative word, to get a constitution, but several nations says, not, we don't want that. And so they were forced under duress to pass a treaty. And guess what happened? Brussels came against Spain, and Spain found a loophole. And now what's happened is Spain has negotiated outside of Brussels, outside of NATO, for a security agreement with the United States to allow a port for the United States, to allow trade with the United States. And now 8 other nations of the 27 remaining, England's already left, are all saying, well, if this works out for Spain, hey, we want to know about having that deal too. Europe is literally falling apart. Europe has fallen behind. Our technology is nowhere near that of America or China, and the whole of the EU is falling apart. Why? Because it's not time for the beast system. And let's are we still there? For a moment I had something that said the internet was not working. So I'm not sure if we lost any time or
No,
not.
we're good.
So let's go over. Are we good?
Yeah, I can still hear you, no problem.
Okay, so let's go over to Europe. So Europe is falling apart, and then we go over to China. China's losing trade just everywhere. And where's it going? It's diversifying, decentralizing. It's going to Japan, to South Korea, to India, all of the east of the Middle East. That means that power block has been broken up. That means there will be no superpower coming out of China. It will be a regional power because all of that manufacturing capability is going to be split up between multiple different nations. Then we go to the Middle East, and what do we find? Where for most of my adult life, all of the Arab nations have been against America and against Israel, the little Satan and the big Satan. And now they'll say, we've had enough war. We want peace. We want peace. And guess what happened? They're smart. They didn't do what Russia did. They didn't do what China did and rely on, well, I guess I should say Russia, which basically relied on 2 things, natural gas and oil. And when you only have, one basic source of income, you're very vulnerable. And that's exactly where Iran finds itself today. And that's why they're going to be forced to capitulate, because their whole source of income is gone. They can't ship oil, and they're bleeding out. And that's why this is working exactly the way Trump wanted it. And it all started with Venezuela. And now that leaves us Australia, who is friendly with America. And that leaves then the crown jewel to come. And that is Africa. And Africa has opened its eyes up and understands that the Belt and Road Initiative was a debt trap. And America, if we treat our hemisphere correctly, and we don't have Western hegemony, we're going to be able to not only get mineral resources from our hemisphere, from South America and Mexico and Canada, but we're also going to be able to get resources from Africa. So now America will very possibly come out of this as the most resource-rich nation in the world, as the largest, the greatest superpower, having gained power while all of the other nations were losing power. In the next 10 to 15 years, with the natural resources that Africa has, they will be the rising star. Africa is going to emerge while the other nations are weakening. There's your new world map, folks. And the nation that is going to drive everything
Agreed.
is the United States of America.
Yeah, agreed. Zimbabwe, there's more resources in Zimbabwe that if they ever tap into all those resources, watch out.
Yep.
That's all I can say.
And
Watch
some
out.
things are happening. They have now developed a continental internet where basically they're digital across the whole of Africa. And it's not the United States of Africa, but you can go from America into Canada without a passport, right? Now they're orchestrating that capability within Africa. So it is much more efficient. You can go from one country to another and you don't have a passport. And it's basically going to facilitate massive growth. And then what are they doing? They kicked China and Russia out. We didn't have much in there. And they said, you want to come back in? Fine, we'll let you back in. But you know what? It's going to be a different deal. We're going to get equity and we're going to be able to basically take our raw resources and refine them and send them out as finished goods. Oh, there's no deal. We don't need you anymore. We can stand on our own now. We educated our people. What did we do? We took our best and brightest and we sent them to America and Europe, and we educated them and we brought them back. And now we have the brain power we need and we have the resources that we need. And in a world that's going on commodities, Africa is going to be very powerful. So what I see is America, number one, and 20 years from now, Africa, number two, and all the rest of the world is basically broken up into regional power structures. That's
Yeah.
what I see.
Do you think that we're going into the seven kingdoms? Do you think there'll be another election in the United States of America? Or do you see Donald Trump going for beyond 2028 and then appointing one of his sons as the next king of one of the seven kingdoms, which obviously it looks like America, Central America, and South America, including Greenland, is going to be part of one nation?
I don't know if we'll be part of one nation, but we will be absolutely aligned in all of our interest. And
How do
right
you
now,
think we travel when we do have our flying cars that could go Mach 17 with anti-gravitic technology that we can't explain, that has no moving parts, that doesn't need oil changes or belt changes or water pump changes because none of those parts exist? It's one unit that most people will not be able to understand, and you don't need to understand. How do you foresee we travel? Is there going to be like some internal immigration system on the internet? You're going to have a digital passport. You're not a criminal. You prove that you're not a criminal. You need to travel to Africa. You need to travel to Italy. You need to travel to Russia. Okay, you're not a criminal. How long are you going for? I'm going for, 6 weeks. Great. Okay. About maybe a day before, your flying craft will communicate with your whatever gadget you have, your version 117 iPhone, and tells you, hey, tomorrow you got to leave, and you put your passport on some screen, your digital passport, and boom, you get in your flying car and you got it. No more TSA, no more scanning machines, no more X-ray machines, no more luggage bags, none of that stuff.
well, I'll answer your question in a way you're probably not expecting. That technology, I think, exists, but we don't have hard and fast proof of it. So I tend to look and ask a different question. I ask the question as, what would facilitate a world where travel would be pretty much free and unobstructed? And it's a world at peace. It's
Well,
a
it will be
world where
free
the stars
because
be kicked in.
you're
What?
not going to use any fuel. Your car doesn't need any maintenance. Uh, you're 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 not going to be able to be restricted to go to another country. Whatever food you consume in the United States, you'll consume in Italy or Africa or Australia or Russia. It don't matter. Food hopefully will be clean all over the world. Super organic food. I did a podcast earlier today called "If I Was the President," which will be released probably in the next couple of days.
Well, everything you say is correct, and you're looking at basically a world that's becoming sort of a utopia. But what enables that? Yes, the technology enables the travel, but it's not going to be allowed unless we have a world that's at peace. And what is one of the principal requirements for an Asara? Stand down your armies. So
Yeah,
now, if we have a stand down of war is over. Now there's no reason why we shouldn't have free travel anywhere in the world. And it's just a matter of how fast do you get there. Do you get
right.
there by an old-fashioned airplane, by an old-fashioned ship, or you get there for some new technology that can get you there in a split second? So that I don't know, but I do believe that freedom of travel is absolutely coming, and the whole world. I want you to look at this: America, that's zone one; Europe, a rising power. Zone 2, Europe declining. Zone 3, the Middle East declining. Zone 4, well, I guess I should break this down. That's the Muslim nations. And what are they doing that's different than, say, what Iran did or what Russia did? They know their oil's running out. And they are basically investing heavily in the United States and in technologies and in tourism and so forth. And so they're going to be very viable. And then Australia will be kind of in under our fold, and that leaves Russia, that leaves Africa. So there's the spheres of influence, and I think we're going to see unparalleled peace because they're no longer going to be able to drive us into wars, and they're no longer going to be able to do something very important to control all the necessities of life by controlling money, by making things so expensive we can't afford them. We're truly heading into what you just described, which is a period of unparalleled peace and prosperity that you could almost call a utopia. That's
Yeah.
what's coming.
Exactly. It's coming. Look, we don't. Let me go to your last slide, which is your book. Guys,
Okay.
absolutely buy his book. This gentleman is a historian. He knows what he's talking about. He's well read. He's well educated on the stuff that really matters. He is first and foremost a constitutionalist on steroids. He's part of the republic, not part of the corporation. So if you want to learn the right stuff, this is probably a book that would probably in the future, in the near future, I would see your book being used in the school system, for example, so that we could teach
Well,
the
that's
kids
what I
some real
pray for.
stuff.
That's really why I wrote it. Educate the parents so the parents can educate the kids and then ultimately get it in the schools so that so they don't have the ability to brainwash them from the get-go. So basically, folks, I'm going to give you an invitation. If you follow me and you know the caliber of what I do, just buy the book. But if you're new and you don't know me and you have any doubts, then I invite you to go to my website and you can get a free chapter to read online so you can see the value and the merits of this book. Click that QR code, it'll take you to my website, where you can either buy the book or you can get a free chapter.
There you go. And how do they follow you on YouTube or Rumble? What channels do you have?
Well, I have my own new channel now. It's called Limited Crusade Official, and I'm on with Mel here pretty frequently. And I just got a new show, a weekly show with John Chambers. That's going to be pretty amazing. And so you can follow me there. And I'm on a number of other people's shows. But if you want to follow me specifically, go to larryballard.com. That'll take you to my website, or go to Larry Ballard Official on Rumble or YouTube. And that'll take you to my weekly show, which I do three episodes a week.
Very cool. Well, it's always a pleasure. And guys, don't forget the new financial system. I don't call it quantum financial system. A lot of people get scammed. As a matter of fact, they made a huge announcement today with Judge Shapiro. They're cracking down worldwide on all the crypto scammers. I put it inside my Telegram group. Our Telegram group is down below. I told my administrators they need to post that video, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 90 days. I want that video to get out, number one. Number two, I want it spread out on every Telegram channel. I don't want people getting ripped off. I don't. Okay. And so we're going to put an end to it. Donald Trump has got a pretty foolproof plan. He knows who the scammers are, and they're coming for you guys. And if you don't think, hey, if we could go get Maduro and pick him up like we're picking up a redheaded stepchild at the daycare center, okay, with no opposition whatsoever, not one of our soldiers got as little as a scratch on them. You understand? We're coming for you, and we're going to get you, and we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent. Anything you owned before or after, or all the money you stole, all your assets will be seized and confiscated and given back to the people you stole it from. We're coming for you. There's nowhere you can hide from this quantum system. Remember that. Okay? So QFS 1776.com, the holy grail of what's coming. You want to opt in there so you can get information about the new junior summit that's coming. Okay? New junior summit. There's going to be probably a very boiled down amount of speakers, not too many. Probably 7, 8, 9 speakers at the most. It's going to be a meet and greet. A few speakers. They're going to be able to speak a lot longer on stage. We're trying to get some big names. I know for sure Juan O. Savin has pledged that he will be there again. He loves what Mel Carmine is doing. He loves staying alive. He loves the energy. He loves Jerry Reed. Jerry Reed will be there to finish his magnetic free energy motor. Okay. I know that Sheila Holmes is going to be there again. I know that the ex CEO of Equinox, a huge company, multi-billionaire friend of mine, that we're doing something absolutely huge together. We'll announce that at the right time. He's going to be on stage talking about the reality of med beds, what's real, what's not, what's bullshit, what's not bullshit, etc. And I can tell you that Juanito knows a lot about med beds. That's going to be the main topic, the main subject. Okay, because I know guys like, Larry here would love to live to be 2,000 years old. He would love to, automatically his body shrink, etc., and get our body genetically inclined to where we can live 2,000 years, because we're going to have too much XRP. We got to spend all of the XRP, Larry. We have to. Okay, it's a must. So you got QFS1776.com. It's a free website. Yes, you get some products there you have to buy, but no one's going to twist your arm to buy anything. But if you say, hey, listen, this is valuable, thank you, Mel, I'll buy some organic dog food, or I'll buy a energy frequency blow dryer that does amazing stuff. Thank you in advance. Okay, carminesgold.com, 786-704 8817, 786-704-8817. Not for socializing. Nothing less than $50,000 worth of silver. Doesn't buy a lot of silver these days anymore. But if we're not too busy, we might accommodate you with 25, 30,000, 40,000, what have you. But the minimum we're trying to shoot for is $50,000 in silver. There is a minimum of $10,000 in XRP at the same number. Text me first. Tell me who you are. You're ready to buy, you're liquid, et cetera, et cetera. I go through it as if I'm a financial planner and ask you more qualifying questions than a financial planner, even though I'm not a financial planner, and you'll be crazy to get financial advice from an ex-pizzeria impresario. Okay, am I making myself clear? Good. Okay, and also staying alive, okay, if you're in the area of Cape Canaveral or Merritt Island or Cocoa Beach or Brevard County, or Orlando, visiting Mickey Mouse, drive to Staying Alive, 166 Center Street. Make arrangements, Staying Alive with 2 E's at the end. Make arrangements to pull the body over and put it into the charging station. This is like a Tesla charging station for human bodies. The bodies are electric. The cells in your body are electric. They need to be charged to 90 millivolts. And when that happens, folks, magical stuff happens. Look at me. I'm 63 years old. Do I look like I'm 63? Look at Larry. Larry looks pretty amazing too. Too bad Larry lives too far away from me. Otherwise, we'll be charging him up like a car battery every day. But anyway, needless to say, come on down and charge the body. We do have the most amazing packages. No one could touch our packages. I say that over and over again because it's true. People start doing the math and say, Mel, hell, if I go down to the local gym and take a shower and hang out in the sauna and sweat out all the toxins out of my body at 212 degrees and live out of my suitcase and don't need to do the Airbnb because I'll stay in your place overnight, I'm saving a ton of money. Yes, exactly. You go get yourself a couple of squares or maybe 1 square, okay? You come back at 8 o'clock, at 7 o'clock at night. You sleep in this beautiful technology. We have this energy chamber now, which is 400,000 volts that go right through your body. We have the plasma med bed. We have the stuff that you put your feet on, and it makes all of your cells in your feet go like crazy. Okay, we have the hydrogen therapy, which allows you to breathe in brown gas. We have a lot of little things that help the body live for a very, very long time. So come on down, Staying Alive with 2 E's.com. There's a number down there at the bottom. Call the office, make arrangements with them, and you'll thank me later. And I'll just say you're welcome. Thank you, Larry, for coming.
Thank you, Mel. Bye-bye. Have a safe trip, by the way.
I will. Thank you.